Hi, Polly here.
And this is Tortuga.
And this is Trek for Free Stories. Let's dive in.
Today's adventure. The gold the missile range is hiding. Now, enjoy the story. Mystery, adventure, and history. What a deer hunter found in 1937. Milton Doc Noss was hunting deer in the San Andres Mountains in November 1937 when a storm pushed him to shelter at the base of Victorio Peak, a remote, isolated mountain rising out of the desert about 30 miles east of Truth or Consequences. He found a shaft, small opening, barely large enough to squeeze through. He descended about 70 feet on a series of hand-cut steps carved into the rock. The shaft opened into a large cavern, and in that cavern, Noss later reported, were thousands of gold bars stacked like cordwood, Spanish treasure chests, weapons and armor from the colonial period, statues, jewelry, the bones of 27 humans. What appeared to be the accumulated treasury of 3 centuries of Spanish colonial New Mexico, and possibly the Apache nation that inherited the region after the Spanish were driven out. He made multiple trips. He brought up some items. He told people. Some believed him, some didn't. He filed a mining claim on Victorio Peak in 1939. In 1942, the United States Army took his land. Why he didn't just take it? Here is the question people use to dismiss Doc Noss. If he really found thousands of gold bars, why wasn't he rich? 4 years before Noss found anything, on April 5th, 1933, President Franklin Roosevelt signed Executive Order 6102. It made it a federal crime for American citizens to own gold. Gold coins, gold bullion, gold certificates, any form. Penalty, up to 10 years in federal prison and a $10,000 fine. Noss found his cave in November 1937. Private gold ownership had been illegal for 4 years. He could not go to a bank. He could not sell it. He could not declare it. He could not walk out of the desert with a sack of Spanish gold bars without committing a federal crime. The one legal path available to him was a mining claim. He filed one in 1939. 2 years later, the Army arrived. Private gold ownership in the United States did not become legal again until December 31st, 1974, when Gerald Ford signed the repeal. Noss had been dead for 25 years by then. The missile range. The Army needed space for testing during World War II. White Sands Proving Ground, later renamed White Sands Missile Range, was established in 1945. It eventually encompassed over 3,000 square miles of desert, including the San Andres Mountains, including Victorio Peak. Noss was denied access to his own legal mining claim. He spent years fighting the Army, fighting partners, fighting lawyers. His operation fell apart. In 1949, in a dispute over the treasure with a man named Charlie Ryan, who had bought an interest in the claim, Noss was shot and killed. His wife, Ova Babe Noss, spent the next 30 years fighting for access to the peak. She never got it. In 1977, the Army allowed a limited civilian search, Operation Goldfinder. A team of investigators entered the cave system under military supervision. The Army's official conclusion? No significant treasure was found. But the investigators found evidence of human activity in the caves, alterations, signs of previous entry. The Army did not explain who had been there or what had been removed. The missile range still occupies the land. Civilian access has been denied for 80 years. Whatever Noss found in 1937 is either still in that cave or it isn't. The road that got here first. The Spanish weren't hiding treasure at Victorio Peak by accident. The San Andres Mountains sit at the eastern edge of the Tularosa Basin, the valley the Camino Real crossed. The Camino Real was the Silver Highway. Every ounce of ore mined from every mountain in northern New Spain came south on this road toward Mexico City, and then across the Atlantic to Spain. The mule trains loaded with silver bullion traveled this valley for 200 years. They were walking right past Victorio Peak. The cave Nos found may have been a Spanish cache, an Apache treasury, or both, layered on top of each other in the same cavern, accumulating over 200 years of warfare and concealment in the same remote mountain. The Camino Real ran right through the valley below. The people who hid things in Victorio Peak knew that road. They were hiding from what was on it. The mountains were in Apache territory, contested ground between the Spanish Empire and the people who had lived there for centuries. Apache raiding parties regularly attacked Spanish caravans on the Jornada del Muerto. The Spanish response was to hide their most valuable stores where the Apache would never find them. The Apache response, when the Spanish were finally driven out in the Pueblo Revolt of 1680, was to hide their own accumulated wealth in the same mountains. Victory Peak sits at the intersection of 3 centuries of hidden things. The map. Trek for Free has Victorio Peak pinned on the Explore map. Filter for historical mines, and you'll find it sitting inside the missile range boundary, exactly where it is. The pin shows what the records say about what's there. The Army's records say something different. The Yostraw trailhead is on the map too. It's a 30-minute drive from Truth or Consequences. The 2 pins are 40 miles apart. Everything that connects them is the story above. Find them on the trekforfree.com Explore map.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Trek for Free Adventure Stories. If this sounds like your kind of expedition, give us a thumbs up, subscribe so you can catch the next one. In the spirit of adventurers of yesteryear and the storytelling legends of Louis L'Amour, I hope we find a place in your travels. See you on the road. Until next time, adios.